So today's video we are going to discuss about the railway track, the various components of it and the functions of each of these components in detail. We civil engineers are focusing on the construction of railway track. So tell me, what are the component parts of a railway track? The track, or also called as permanent way, is a railroad on which the trains are running. Okay? It consists of mainly two rails which are fixed to the sleepers, and these sleepers are embedded in a layer of ballast, and along with that there are fasteners which connects the rails, and the rails are connected to the sleeper. So mainly there are three components, and they are the rail, the sleeper and the ballast. So let's see the component parts of railway track. So track is a railroad over which the trains are running. Okay. So essentially it should have the rails. So it consists of two parallel rails which are fastened to the sleepers, okay, at a specified distance. And these sleepers are embedded over the ballast of specified thickness. And the ballast are spread over a wider area of level surface. Then there are fasteners, and these fasteners are connecting the rails by series of fish plates, and again they are helping to fasten them to the sleepers. So each component of this has specific function to perform. Railway track or permanent way. So you might wonder why it is known as permanent way, because there are temporary tracks laid at the time of construction for carrying earth and other building materials to the construction site, and subsequently it will be removed. So in order to distinguish the final track, it is known by the name permanent way. Therefore, a railway track is a combination of rails that are fitted on sleepers and resting on ballast and subgrade. Each component of the railway track has a specific function to perform. So let's see rail. The rail, they are the girders to transmit the wheel load to the sleeper, and they have to provide a firm surface for the wheel to run over that. Okay. Then come to the sleeper. So what is the function of sleeper? The wheel load that is coming off the rail to be transferred to a larger area of ballast, and at the same time they have to fix the rails correctly and to maintain a proper gauge. Gauge is the clear spacing between the rails is what is known as gauge. And for that, the fasteners is helping to fix the rail properly to the sleeper. And then comes the ballast layer. This is the ballast layer. So the wheel load coming over the sleeper is transferred to a larger area by the ballast, and at the same time it is providing drainage for the railway track. All the component parts that we discussed in the earlier section are shown with the help of figure here. Okay, you can see here there are rails which is fitted to the sleeper, and they are resting over the ballast. So what is this? They are fish plates. So the function of fish plate is to connect between two rail sections. So the rail sections, they are of length 12 to 13 meter, and these rail sections are connected by means of fish plates, and the rail section is fixed to the sleeper by means of fasteners. You can see all this in this figure. You can see two types of sleepers also. This is a wooden sleeper, this one is a steel sleeper. Gauges. Okay. So the rail, it has got three parts. One is the head over which the wheels are running. Then there is a foot which is connected to the sleeper, and the head and foot are connected by means of a portion called web. So gauge is a clear distance between the head of two parallel rails. You can see here, this is the gauge. So gauge is a clear distance between two parallel rails. So what are different types of gauges you know? Yeah, the gauge is shown in a figure. So it is a clear distance between the head of two parallel rails. So what are different types of gauges? Gauges on Indian Railway, there are three main gauges, or I can say it is broadly classified into two, broad gauge and narrow gauge. And in between comes the meter gauge. So depending on the distance between it is being named as different gauges. Okay. If the distance between two parallel rails is 1 meter or 1000 millimeter, it is known as meter gauge. And whatever less than that is what is known as narrow gauge. And the gauge more than that is what is known as the broad gauge. So in India, we are using a broad gauge of spacing 1.676 meters, whereas in UK, USA, China, Canada, etc., they are using a standard gauge of gauge length 1.435 meters. Okay. And narrow gauge, again there are two types of narrow gauge of 762 millimeters and 610 millimeters. Depending upon where it is being provided, the gauge is fixed. The choice of gauge. All new railway lines are constructed to adhere to the standard gauge. So there are factors that guide the choice of gauge. So first one is the cost of construction. So what happens when we are going on for a wider gauge? There will be marginal rise in the cost of construction. As the gauge dimension increases, there is proportional rise in the cost of land acquisition, and also there will be rise in the material that is required for earthwork, the rail, the sleeper, the ballast. So wider track means higher cost. Then next, moving on to the bridges and other facilities to be provided like culvert and etc. The cost increases for wider gauges. Whereas if you consider the railway station or the station building, the platform or the signal system or other facilities to be provided, or if you consider the rolling stock, all these are independent of the gauge. So mainly the cost increases with these two components. One is the land and other construction materials. Then also the bridges, channels and culvert that is being provided. So for wider gauge, the cost of construction increases. Next is regarding the physical feature of a country. So we mostly prefer, you can see in hilly areas, narrow gauges are being provided. Why? Because it is possible to adopt steeper gradients and sharper curves for narrow gauge compared to that of a wider gauge. So physical feature of country is another one that influence the selection of gauge. Then third is the volume and nature of traffic. So wider gauge means larger wagons or coaches can be made to run, thereby more traffic can be carried. And another one is wider gauge means there is greater potential for that to move at higher speed, because speed is a function of the diameter of the wheel, so which is in turn limited by gauge. Another one is the development of an area. The thinly populated area can be connected by narrow gauge because, as I told you, the cost of construction will be less in the case of narrow gauge. So, thinly populated areas can be initially connected by means of narrow gauge. You can see these are the examples of narrow gauge still existing in India. It is there in Kalka, Shimla, Darjeeling, Udagamantala, or Ooty. Have you been to any of these trains? So, what is the issue with multi-gauge? Like if you are going to Ooty, okay. So a person from Kerala, how can he go? First of all, we have to go to the Metupalayam. From there, we have to catch a toy train to Ooty. So there is a change from broad to narrow gauge. So what are the problems that you face when you are doing this change from one gauge to another? First and foremost thing is it causes inconvenience to the passenger. Okay, if they are elderly passengers, they have to, or whoever it is, we have to shift from one platform to the other. Then we have to climb the stairs, cross the bridges. Similarly, we have to transport our luggage. Then, if your train is arriving at the station late, then finding seat is another challenging task. Then if it is late, then again there is probability of missing the connection trains, delay, etc. So it causes inconvenience to the passengers, and at the same time it is affecting the transshipment of goods. Like the goods need to be transshipped at wherever the gauges are changing. so which can result in damage to the goods, or there can be chances of theft or misplacement. It can again result in delay. Then the rolling stock. The rolling stock means the wagons aging together, they are known by the name rolling stock. So inefficient use of rolling stock, because these are not being fully utilized, because they have to, most of the time they are kept idle. Then additional facilities are required at stations and yards in order to make the people move from one platform to the other. We have to provide extra facilities there. Then again, it will provide hindrance to the fast movement of goods and traffic. Then it may again result in unbalanced economic growth, because industries that are situated near meter gauge or narrow gauge, the frequency of train will be less, whereas the frequency of train on broad gauge is more. So the industries that are near broad gauge or narrow gauge, it takes time for their goods to reach the market when compared to those industries which are situated near the broad gauge. So it may result in unbalanced economic growth. So Indian Railways, they took a bold decision in 1992 to get rid of multi-gauge and follow the uni-gauge policy. So the advantage of that is all these disadvantages here discussed become advantage for the uni-gauge one. Uni-gauge means all the gauges may be of one dimension. It can be broad, narrow, or meter gauge. So usually in India we are following the broad gauge system. You can see the railway line which is running in front of our college. Okay, so it has been converted from meter gauge to broad gauge. So what are its advantages? There won't be any transport bottlenecks. No transshipment hazards will be there. We can provide alternate routes. Then improved utilization of track and other rolling stock, and again it will result in balanced economic growth. Rails are continuous girders which carry the axle load, or they are the members of the track leading two parallel lines to provide an unchanging, continuous and level surface for the movement of trains. So to withstand stresses, wear and tear, they are made up of high carbon steel. Let's see what are the functions of these rails. It provides a continuous and level surface for the movement of trains, and then it also provides a smooth surface with less friction. Then rails serve as lateral guide for the wheels. It also bears various types of stresses. What are different stresses coming over the rails? The stresses develop due to vertical load transmitted to them through axle load and wheels, as well as there will be lateral and braking stresses coming. Then there will be thermal, or the temperature variation can lead to thermal stresses. Then another function is to transmit the load to a larger area below. So these are the functions of rails. So what are the parts of a modern rail? It has got a head, it has got a foot, and there is a web which connects between these two. So the wheels are running over the head, and the foot is connected to the sleeper, and the dimension of this is fixed in such a manner that it can perform the specified functions. So depending upon the parts, or depending upon the dimension of each of these parts, or the shape of each of these parts, there are three types of rail section: double-headed rail section, bull-headed and flat-footed. So the name suggests what is double-headed. Both the head and foot, they are of same size and shape, and that is why it is also called by the name dumbbell section. So the idea was that once the head wore out during service, the rail could be inverted and reused. But later it is found that due to the continuous usage, the bottom portion gets dented to such an extent that it cannot be reused. So then came the next type, that is the bull-headed rails. So in the case of bull-headed rails, it is almost similar shape but with more metal to the head portion than to the bottom portion. So this head portion is provided with more metal in order to withstand the wear and tear. So the rail section had a major drawback that chairs are to be fixed in order to connect that to the sleeper. And then came finally the flat-footed section, which is now commonly used in Indian Railway. This is an inverted T-type section which has got more stability and better strength. So now Indian Railways is extensively using flat-footed rails. So this double-headed rails, yeah. So in order to connect this double-headed rails to the sleeper, some special arrangement is required, which is known as a chair. You can see here. This one is what is known as a chair, and in order to fix the rail to the chair, there is a key that is to be fixed between them. Okay. Then this is bull-headed. Again, a key to be provided. Here it is. Yeah. So you can see if it's directly being fixed, there is some space between them. So to firmly fix that, keys are required. So in the case of bull-headed rails, for more flexibility, spring steel keys are being used. Then these are the chairs. So for both the bull-headed as well as double-headed, chairs and keys are required to connect the rail to the sleeper. Yeah. So these are the fasteners that are used to connect the chair to the sleeper. The third type is the flat-footed rail. It got its name because the bottom portion is flat. So this is now being widely used. 90% of the railway tracks in the world are now using this form of rails. It's also called by the name Vignole rails. Okay. And again, it requires a steel bearing plate to be provided at the bottom in order to distribute the wheel load. Then advantages are they are economical because in the previous cases I told you it requires some special arrangement like chairs, spikes, keys, which are not required in the case of flat-footed rails. Another one is the stiffness. They are more vertically and laterally stable. At the same time, because of its particular cross section, the center of gravity is situated most to the mid height of the rail so that maximum tensile and compressive stresses are equal. Then it is less liable to develop kinks and it always provides a regular top surface. Then the loads are distributed over the large number of sleepers. These are the advantage of flat-footed rails compared to other rails. This is a typical cross section which shows how the rail is being connected to the sleeper. So in today's class, we have discussed the different components of a railway track, its function, and then we have seen the different types of gauges that is being provided in Indian Railways and what are its advantages and why we need to convert to uni-gauge policy, or we should have a single gauge for the entire railway network. So the need for that is being discussed. Then we have discussed the rails, the different types of rail sections. So that's all for today's video. Thank you.